So now let's talk about what it means to be grounded and what that looks like. If we had a room filled with oxygen, and the room next door had about 8% oxygen, and we're in there going, "Ah." If we opened the door between them, what's going to happen? What happens? Right, it floods in. It's called diffusion. In the plants, it's called osmosis, that everything tries to equal out. And so the oxygen will rush into that room in order to fill that gap, and we'll go, "Oh." And that's exactly what it's like to go barefoot. As soon as you put your foot on the ground, the electricity rushes into you because in most cases, in fact in all cases, we're deficient in the Earth's electrons or electricity. And therefore, the Earth senses an imbalance, and literally it's like suction. It's just drawn right into you. Over time, because we have various gates that block just the immediate absorption of everything, over time, it increases your negative electrical charge, or you gain more electricity. And that's what this idea is. Anytime you have two conductive objects, two rooms next to each other, that make contact, you open the door, such as your bare feet on the ground, the electrons will flow from the place where they are abundant, remember that room with all the oxygen in it, into the place where they're less abundant. The electrical potential of the two objects will thus equalize, and that's called earthing. That's called grounding. And that's when we come to that place of starting to be connected again to the earth. You ever heard this phrase before? We're disconnected. I feel ungrounded. Or you ground your child. Their behaviors are erratic, crazy. You're grounded. Right? The anxiety, the erratic behavior. We're going to look at some slides here that I believe are going to shock you. And this is the science. And Clint has been responsible, it's been about 30 studies now on this subject. And we're just going to be giving you the cliff notes on all that. Pictures, which is great because you can see the bar graphs, you can see the images, you can see how things change over time when you're grounded. We're going to see the blood, what happens, right? You're going to get to feel that, and what's going to end up happening is we're going to see what happens in an hour or two. It's only going to, 20 minutes. All right, so this is the original energy medicine. Does anybody know what K1 is nicknamed in Chinese medicine? What's K1 again? Bubbling well, bubbling spring. That's big, isn't it? Take a good listen to that. Bubbling spring. What happens at a bubbling spring? Energy bursts forth. It's actually electrons burst forth out of the earth. And they're drawn up by suction. And in that moment where it comes forth, that's where you want to drink the water. I've been doing this, and we're going to see you're going to get some insight here about this grounding stuff, because I've been actually camping out next to sacred springs where the water comes out. Listen to this. Putting a grounding rod into the spring and running it to K1. I'm just taking it literally. It's like, okay, that's bubbling spring, this. Let me just see what happens if I connect that. There are a lot of energies, by the way, that we're going to touch on here, having been named various different things. In The Secret Life of Plants, Hieronymus's research was named alloptic energies, which are energies that come out of the earth, that are in the cosmos, that are conducted down metal wires that aren't electromagnetic, that are healthy and healing for you and plants. You also get those things when you're grounded. So somebody asked me a very, very good question in 2009. In April 2009, it was the best question I got all year. Here was a question. How many forces are there? We know, there's force of gravity, there's electricity, there's magnetism. How many forces are there out there? Who's got a guess? 4? Thousands and thousands of forces. Because there's a force, for example, if any dentists in the room? Anybody do dentistry? Anybody work with metals or metallurgy? Okay, have you ever found, if you're doing like a gold tooth, for example, that to shape the tooth on some days it doesn't work? Has that ever happened to you in your career? I've had dentists tell me that. Why is that? Because there's a force that affects gold that's connected to the sun. If there's something weird happening with the sun, let's say there's an eclipse occurring, or something is going on with the sun with the other planets, there's a lineup, it will screw up the ability of gold to crystallize. That's a force that connects gold to the sun. Do you see that? Now, how far that goes? Anybody here ever studied astrology? You know about the planetary forces then. And it just goes on and on and on. Rudolf Steiner very simply categorized it into two basic forces. There are astrological or meteorological forces, the forces that come from the heavens down, and then there are telluric forces. Very good word. Telluric. And these are energies that come from the earth and that come up. And we have blocked those telluric forces most of our life. Since we were children, we have not gotten enough of those telluric forces. And what Rudolf Steiner said, this is fascinating. I finally, after 10 years of trying to unlearn everything, I was finally able to get to a point with Rudolf Steiner where I could read it innocently and get into his mindset. Any students of Steiner here? Students of biodynamic agriculture, Waldorf education? One of the great insights, it's right there, he said that when you are exposed to too much meteorological forces, too much sun energy, without the counterbalancing earth energy or telluric forces, what will occur is crystallization or calcification. You will immediately notice, if you do have calcification troubles, especially in your lower extremities, that when you ground yourself, this is a great grounding pad. This is what I have underneath my computer. Right? So my feet are on that. So when that computer is sending its EMFs at me, yep, it blocks it. It shields you because you become part of the earth, and it just shields goes right over you.